So there are lots of phenotypes, and it's a word that you don't really need to understand, but there are lots of different ways of reacting to sleep problems. So the way I've condensed it, because it's a lot more complex than these three things I've written here: arousal threshold, loop gain, and muscle responsiveness. And I'll try and go through them one by one. I've started with the easiest one, which is arousal threshold. And in its most simplest form, it means how easily it is for you to wake up. So, there are some people who are really sensitive. If it's like a child walks past their bedroom, they'd wake up and go, "What's going on?" like this, or if someone just knocks, if someone closes the door outside and they wake up straight away. It's how sensitive a sleeper you are. You wake up very easily. Whereas some people, they can sleep through a fire alarm, and people go, "Well, how did you manage that? How did you do that?" And some people, when they hear snoring, it doesn't wake them up. Some people, when they hear snoring, they wake up the slightest little grunt or snort. So it's a bit like that. It's not really like that. So what I mean by arousal threshold is that even the smallest little thing that happens to your throat, if you have a low arousal threshold, that means that you would wake up. So, for example, some people, and I think a lot of people notice this from time to time, they fall asleep lying on the sofa or something like that, and then they like this and they snort and they wake up. And that obviously is a big snort, but some people wake up even with the tiniest little bit of snort. And so some people react differently. They wake up, their brains wake up a lot quicker than other people. So it's not that they have a different condition, it's just they react differently to different things that happen to them, different events during their sleep. And so that's why phenotypes is like a way of saying how how people react differently to different types of conditions. I hope you're with me on this. If there's a problem, I will try and go back. So loop gain is the next one. And that's a little bit harder to understand. It's how quickly you start breathing in response to carbon dioxide levels going up. So some people, like normal people, when they pinch their nose, hold their breath, and they can normally hold their breath for, I don't know, a minute, a bit longer than a minute. That's a normal level of holding your breath. But some people, when they get to about 10 seconds and they feel like, oh God, my lungs are burning. I really want to take a breath. Because when you hold your breath like this, your oxygen levels aren't disappearing. You need several minutes before your oxygen levels disappear. It's the carbon dioxide levels that are going up. And carbon dioxide, what happens is in your body, it makes you slightly more acidic. It makes your blood more acidic. And the body is very keen to keep your acidity and alkali levels at the right level. If the acid levels go up, it gets very, very frightened and makes you take a breath. Now, so it's almost a level of how frightened your system is in terms of carbon dioxide levels. So if you hold your breath for a short time and the carbon dioxide level went up just a little bit, some people go and take a huge breath and try and get very scared about it and start breathing. Whereas some people, I can hold my breath. I'm a free diver. I can hold my breath for absolutely ages, and it doesn't seem to bother them that much. So I've given you a bit of a clue how some people get rid of loop gain problems. They can go down that path of learning how to become more resistant to rising carbon dioxide levels. So someone I think mentioned something about like Buteyko, I think it's called, the breathing exercise. It's basically shallow breathing. I did Buteyko, oh God, I was young then, 30 something years ago. And it's basically for asthma at the time. And what you're doing is you're slowly reducing the amount you're breathing. You're not breathing through your mouth like this because you get a lot of air in and out through your mouth. You're sort of forcing people to breathe through their nose because it's harder to breathe through your nose in some situations. And then it reduces the amount of flow you have, how much oxygen you replace, and how much carbon dioxide you blow off. So you become, shall we say, desensitized a little bit to the amount of carbon dioxide that's going up. And that helps people with asthma. Yeah, with slightly higher carbon dioxide levels, your asthma isn't so reactive. You don't get an asthma attack quite as aggressively, and it opens up your lungs a little bit. Loop gain is basically how sensitive you are to carbon dioxide levels. And in response, you take really deep breaths. It's not so much about how you wake up, because that's arousal threshold, but it's more about carbon dioxide levels and your rate of breathing and how heavy you're breathing. So you can see they're very slightly different. Now, muscle responsiveness is the next one. And it's how well the muscles work to keep the airway open. So some people, everything just sort of flops down and blocks their breathing. And when something happens, they don't really try very hard to open up, or they're just unable to do so. So a very poor way of thinking about it is when we age, we lose muscle mass. We lose 3% muscle mass per year as we get older, to the point where some people who've never snored or had any problems in their lives, when they get much older, because the muscles in their throat are much weaker now, they haven't exercised them, everything starts flopping down in sleep because the muscle isn't there to tighten it back up. The tone has gone. And so you lose an awful lot of muscle responsiveness, means it isn't able to keep the airway open. I've given you little clues as I've gone along. So muscle responsiveness, I just mentioned. Some people talk about myofunctional therapy and exercise. That's one part of myofunctional therapy. And if you exercise the throat muscles, the tongue, the throat muscles, you can improve that slightly. So instead of everything collapsing down, tightening up those muscles, exercising those muscles, making them stronger over a period of about 3 weeks. I think some of the latest research says if you do half an hour of this stuff every day, you can speed up that process, and it seems to be more effective at that point. Because I don't understand myofunctional therapy at all, but I haven't got a degree or anything like that in that side. But what I've been doing is putting the telescope up my nose, looking down the back of my throat and videotaping these exercises. You might have seen some of my videos which talk about different exercises that you can do. And I've looked at all the papers and I've pulled out all the exercises that I think would help people with their things that have been tested on other people. And those, I've got 2 big videos there that are useful for that. But what I did was I wanted to see what actually happens in my throat when I do those exercises. And I realized that some of them were actually pulling the tongue back or changing the position of the tongue. Now, I don't think logically that we should be trying to exercise the muscle that pulls or closes the throat. I don't think that what makes sense to me. So what I did was I picked out the exercises that seem to open up the airway and pull the tongue forward, a bit like if you had a implant. I'll talk about implants later on. An implant that sits here that pulls the tongue forward and stops you from having sleep apnea. But and there's another implant here called a junior implant, which brings the tongue forward and opens up the side wall of your throat as well. So both of those implants are really important. But the implant that really made me think about this was the Restera implant. And that's an implant which is basically you sit in a chair like the one behind me, ultrasound on the neck, you find the nerve, and then with an injection, you implant a tiny little implant like that, and you leave it in there, and then you go to another nerve and put it there, and you just sit in the chair whilst you're awake with a bit of numbing injections. And it works very well to pinpoint the areas of different nerves in your throat. Now, when I was watching those, I was doing some research last year, and I'm doing some more research, and I'll talk to you about that later. I saw that different nerves did different things, but the things that seemed to work for patients for their sleep apnea, because I did it during drug-induced sleep endoscopy, which again, I'll talk about later. What happens is I saw different things open up the airway and other things made it worse. I thought to myself, well, why am I doing exercises that effectively make your sleep apnea worse? So the exercise I found that were useful when I was testing on myself, and I will do a video eventually when I've got that footage, I will make a video eventually. But because you're here, I might as well tell you. So sticking your tongue forward, all the way forward as far as you can, really seems to help. And I noticed that people who have a tongue tie, I've got a little tongue tie, that little frenulum thing underneath my tongue. If that is divided, you're able to push your tongue forward, but if it's got a tongue tie, it sort of rolls like that. So it sort of comes forward like this out of downwards. You can't point it straight out. And so there are lots of different muscles within the tongue. Pushing forward muscles, protrusion, is one set, but there's also depression where you can flatten it forward. So if you've got a tongue like this, you want to be able to do that But with a tongue tie holding it there, you can't do that. It gets stuck. So it's almost like it has to rotate round that pivot point. So I think that's where, personally, although I don't know much about bifunctional therapy at all, when I've been watching people before and after a tongue tie release, that's what seems to be the difference. And so sticking your tongue out straight ahead seems to work. There's a guy called Carlos O'Connor, a Spanish guy. He's not Irish at all, but he has got a very Irish name. Who's made an app that helps you. You sort of stick your tongue out and press it against not a keyboard, a mobile phone. So look at that app. I wish I could remember the name. I'll see if I can find it later for you. So there are exercise things out there. Rather than using my videos, you could use that. But sticking your tongue out seems to work. The other thing that seemed to work is sucking on a straw or something like this. Like this. If you do that, it seems like everything moves forward again, including your palate moving forward. So that seemed really important because you want to exercise the palate to stop it from flapping around in the wind at night, so it stops the snoring. So I think that's really important. The other thing, the exercise I found that works is making slightly high-pitched noises, like a ee, like this. That exercise, when you really over-exaggerate that high-pitched sort of noise, like this, it brings your tongue forward, opens up the airway, dilates the airway. So that exercise seems to work. Whereas if you did oh like this with like an O noise or a B, that sort of thing, it seems to pull the tongue back a little bit. So that was the other thing I found. And also, I couldn't work out how to do this other than say to you, look in the mirror, look at your palate, the side wall and the dangly thing, the uvula hanging out like that. Try and pull it up like this and sort of like you're doing reps in the gym. Try and lift it up like that because exercising that muscle seems to work. It tightens up that muscle quicker than trying to depress it or push it back at all. Because in surgery, we're trying to bring it up and bring it forward. So sucking on something or pulling the palate up seems to work best. Arousal threshold. I'm just going to go back to that because I know this is a difficult slide. But there is a bit of research that I'm doing with my friend Michael Story, who's brilliant at sleep studies and things like that. And there's a thing that works for insomnia patients where it doesn't require drugs or anything, but it reduces your arousal threshold. I haven't done the research yet, and I haven't been 100% sure, but I will explain it to you when I don't want to make you all go and do this test when it may be the wrong thing for you, because it's a horrible thing to get rid of insomnia. But what we did was this thing that we did for insomnia, it's top secret at the moment. What we did was we did a sleep study before, we did this horrible thing to them to get rid of their insomnia, and then we did their sleep study afterwards. And it works really well. It's not very nice to do it to someone. It's a horrible disruption of their sleep, and they spend a lot of time getting that back. But then afterwards, we noticed that I think the arousal threshold is different between the two different sleep studies. And it made us think, could we not do this for people with low arousal thresholds? So they're not so aroused easily. They're not such sensitive sleepers. And we know that people change during life with arousal threshold. For example, women who have had babies, their arousal threshold drops really low almost the day they've had a baby. Because if you're a woman who's had always had very deep sleep, and then you have a child, you don't want to be a deep sleeper when you've got a newborn baby, because if the child is crying next to you and you're just sleeping right through it, that's not great for the child. So your arousal threshold drops. It's a natural thing that happens to women. Your arousal threshold drops so that when the child cries, you just wake up straight away and then go and feed the baby. So it's something that happens to women at that point, and it sticks with you. You don't get to lose that easily. And the same thing sort of happens during menopause as well. So you're sort of compounding on this problem. I think we've had enough of that, but I'll move on to the next thing.